Hello folks, my name is Andrew, aka Drew. Normally I do post-game videos for Montreal Canadiens games on this YouTube channel here and talk about anything else hockey related that I feel is relevant and important. And today is one of those days. I won't be doing a post-game video reaction to last night's Winnipeg Montreal Canadiens game because to me I felt that there was something more important to discuss today, and that of course is the passing of Canadian legend Walter Gretzky. I had the pleasure of meeting Walter twice in my life, and I will tell you about the story about me literally running into Walter one time at a restaurant. But before I tell you that story, I wanted to tell you the story about when I first met Walter when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I was in Brantford at Wayne Gretzky's arena in town for a hockey tournament for, I believe it was my sister at the time, and my dad was standing by the glass talking to this gentleman, and he had a nice jacket on, of course, and they were just having a good conversation. My dad calls me over and he says, "Andrew, this is Wayne Gretzky's father." And probably the only time in my life I didn't believe something my dad told me. And I just looked at him like, "Yeah, okay, Dad." And sure enough, Walter handed me an autographed Wayne Gretzky pen. And I wasn't really sure still, even though he was telling me it was him. And he was just very calm and didn't really give off a whole, vibe of who he was, whatever. But so sure enough, a few minutes later, I go walking around the arena and I find this clipboard with some newspaper clippings on it. I see one with what looked like the guy I just met, and it said Walter Gretzky underneath, and then I just went, wow, and it was just such a special moment. And then I took that pen that Walter gave me. Thankfully, the autograph was mounted into the pen. It was artificial, but I took it to school the next day, even though after several warnings from all of my family saying not to bring it. I bring it to school. Sure enough, I lose the pen. And then on the PA announcements at the end of the day, I asked if anybody could turn it in if they found it. And I don't think anyone was going to anyway if they did find it. But that night I remember just being in bed and crying and just so upset that I lost that pen. And fast forward several years later, I literally bump into Walter at a restaurant. I don't know if him or I weren't looking where we were going, but I remember just kind of what felt like I body checked this. Walter's a little shorter, so I guess I bumped into him. And I'm not a big guy. I'm tall, but I'm certainly more slender. I'm not very big. So I bump into Walter, and I just said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." I realized who it was. And then all of a sudden, Walter asked me all the names of my family members and wrote autographs for each and every one of them. Just a true testament, as you're going to hear from all over the country, about Canada's hockey dad. Really, he did exemplify what it was to be a hockey dad. And I think personally that Walter Gretzky really set the tone of what hockey culture should always be like. And that was just to be a gracious human being. My brother-in-law got me this book a couple years ago for Christmas or my birthday, I'm not sure which one, but there's a beautiful picture here of Walter and Wayne. This picture was taken on January 31st, 1984 at Brendan Byrne Arena in New Jersey. Bruce Bennett is the photographer of this book, and his inscription next to the picture of Wayne and Walter is absolutely beautiful, so I just want to read it to you here. This was taken during the morning skate before the All-Star game. Walter was there, and he was leaning on the bench, so I just lined up the shot with Wayne. Walter is such a remarkable human being. You can see where Wayne gets his attitude toward people. His humility and his sense of humor, it all comes from Walter. I once flew up to Toronto and drove out to Brantford, Ontario to photograph Walter and also Wayne's brothers at home. He made me a tuna fish sandwich, which I hate, but it would have been impolite to refuse it. Walter was as hospitable as you could be to somebody you didn't know. It just didn't matter. That's Walter. I absolutely cannot wait to see how beautiful of a job Hockey Night in Canada is going to do in paying tribute to Walter. So many of you guys out there have had the opportunity to meet him. Anybody who loves the game of hockey, we learned how to love the game from Walter and Wayne. And it's a really special experience to get to meet that man. And I was fortunate enough to meet him twice. Just want to say thank you to Walter. And I'm pursuing hockey right now as a career, and I just feel fortunate to have met a man of his stature, and I just want to thank the Gretzky family for the example that you're all continuing to set after following Walter's footsteps. So to Walter, to the game of hockey, we say thank you.